Today, we're going to look at some of the biggest scandals in football history. Not just controversial matches or strange decisions, but the moments where football was shaped by forces far beyond the pitch. These are stories about power, pressure, and influence. About what happens when the world's most popular game becomes useful to people in charge. Argentina, 1978. A World Cup inside a dictatorship. In 1978, Argentina was a country that lived in two different realities at the same time. On the surface, it looked like a nation preparing for a celebration. Streets were decorated, stadiums were renovated, flags hung from balconies. The world was coming, and Argentina wanted to look proud, modern, and united. But underneath that surface, fear had become part of daily life. 2 years earlier, the military had taken power. The country was ruled by a junta led by Jorge Rafael Videla. The army, the police, and the intelligence services controlled everything. There were no real elections, no free press, no safe opposition. People disappeared quietly. Not criminals, students, teachers, journalists, union members. Sometimes just people who were in the wrong place or knew the wrong person. They were taken at night. No arrest records, no trials. Families were told nothing. Argentinians even had a word for it. Desaparecidos. They disappeared. Not dead, not alive, just erased. By the time the World Cup arrived, thousands of people were already gone. And yet, Argentina was about to host the biggest football tournament in the world. A World Cup arrives. When FIFA awarded the 1978 World Cup to Argentina, it had been years earlier, before the dictatorship. But once the generals took power, they immediately understood what the tournament could do for them. This was their chance. For 1 month, the entire world would look at Argentina, not at prisons, not at missing people, but at football. The government invested enormous amounts of money. Stadiums were rebuilt. Security was everywhere. The image had to be perfect. Foreign journalists were guided carefully. Certain neighborhoods were avoided. Certain questions were discouraged. The message was simple. Argentina is fine. Argentina is happy. Argentina is united. Football would carry that message. The team. On the pitch, Argentina had something real, a very strong team. This wasn't a fake contender. This wasn't a weak side being pushed to victory. Argentina had genuine quality. The heart of the team was Mario Kempes. Powerful, emotional, relentless. He wasn't even expected to be the main star at first, but he would become the face of the tournament. Around him were players like Daniel Passarella, Osvaldo Ardiles, and goalkeeper Ubaldo Filol. Talented, aggressive, deeply committed. The coach, Cesar Luis Menotti, believed in attacking football. He wanted Argentina to win by playing beautifully, not just by surviving. And the pressure on these players was enormous. They weren't just playing for a trophy. They were playing for a country that was watching every move, a government that needed them, a regime that had turned them into symbols. The tournament begins. Argentina started the tournament strongly, but not spectacularly. There were nerves, expectations, the weight of playing at home. Then came the second group stage, a strange format that no longer exists. And this is where the controversy begins. Argentina was placed in a group with Brazil, Poland, and Peru. Brazil played earlier matches before Argentina. This meant Argentina always knew exactly what result they needed. Against Poland, Argentina won. Against Brazil, they drew 0-0 in a tense, physical match. Brazil finished their group games with a certain goal difference. Now Argentina knew the equation. To reach the final, they had to beat Peru by at least 4 goals. Not 1, not 2, 4. That alone raised eyebrows. Argentina versus Peru. The match against Peru remains one of the most controversial games in World Cup history. Peru were not a weak team. They had beaten Scotland and drawn with the Netherlands earlier in the tournament. They were organized, proud, capable, and yet what followed shocked the football world. Argentina won 6-0. Peru collapsed. Their defense looked lost. Their goalkeeper made mistakes he had never made before. Argentina scored again and again, as if resistance had vanished. No clear proof of referee bribery has ever been established, and that matters. The referee did not make obvious match-deciding errors, but the context was impossible to ignore. Before the match, Argentina's dressing room was visited by high-ranking officials, including Videla himself, accompanied by political figures. There were later rumors, never fully proven, of political pressure, economic deals, and even grain shipments discussed between governments. Nothing was officially confirmed, but football doesn't exist in a vacuum. And that night, something felt wrong. Brazilian players were furious. International media asked questions. Fans around the world felt uneasy. Argentina had reached the final. The final and the celebration. Argentina went on to face the Netherlands in the final. The match was tense, emotional, violent at times. Argentina won 3-1 after extra time. Mario Kempes scored twice. When the final whistle blew, the country exploded. People flooded the streets of Buenos Aires. Cars honked. Strangers hugged each other. Blue and white flags covered everything. For many Argentinians, the joy was real. They weren't celebrating the regime. They were celebrating football, relief, pride, belonging. On television, the generals smiled. They lifted the trophy. They stood next to the players as if they had earned the victory themselves. From the outside, Argentina looked united, successful, happy, but nothing had changed. That same night, people were still imprisoned. Families were still searching. Fear was still everywhere. Just a few kilometers from the stadium, where the trophy was lifted, people were still being tortured in secret. The World Cup didn't end the nightmare. It covered it. Italy 1934. Football under fascism. In the early 1930s, Italy was ruled by Benito Mussolini. Mussolini didn't see football as entertainment. He saw it as proof. Proof that his ideology worked. Proof that Italy was strong, disciplined, superior. When Italy hosted the 1934 World Cup, there was never any doubt about what outcome the regime wanted. Italy had to win, not because of sport, but because defeat would look like weakness. From the beginning of the tournament, strange patterns began to emerge. Refereeing decisions consistently went Italy's way. Opponents complained of intimidation. Matches were played in hostile environments, under enormous pressure. In one infamous quarter-final against Spain, the game was so violent that several Spanish players were injured. The match ended in a draw, and instead of penalty kicks, a replay was ordered the very next day. Spain entered that replay exhausted, injured, and angry. Italy advanced. Throughout the tournament, referees later admitted they felt pressure. Some spoke of indirect threats. Others simply said it was clear what was expected of them. No written orders, no paper trail, just fear. Italy won the final in Rome. Mussolini was present. The trophy was raised under fascist banners. The victory was presented as a triumph, not just of a team, but of a political system. Football had done its job. South Korea, 2002. The World Cup no one talks about. In the summer of 2002, the World Cup came to South Korea and Japan. It was supposed to be a celebration of something new. The first World Cup hosted in Asia. 2 countries, 2 cultures, 1 global stage. And for most of the tournament, that's exactly what it felt like, until South Korea started winning. A country ready to be seen. At the turn of the millennium, South Korea was changing fast. The country had survived dictatorship, economic crisis, and decades of rapid industrialization. Democracy was relatively young. Confidence on the global stage was still fragile. Hosting the World Cup mattered. This wasn't just football, it was an announcement: we belong here. The stadiums were modern. The crowds were incredible. The red shirts filled entire cities. Millions of people poured into the streets, not just to watch football, but to feel part of something global. South Korea wasn't expected to go far. Historically, they were World Cup outsiders. Hard-working, disciplined, but never dangerous. That's what made what happened next so unforgettable. The team and the coach. South Korea's team was not built around superstars. Most players competed in Asian leagues. A few played in Europe, but none were global icons yet. The man who changed everything was the coach, Guus Hiddink, a tough, demanding Dutchman who transformed the squad. Training sessions were brutal. Fitness levels were extreme. The team pressed relentlessly. South Korea didn't try to outplay opponents with elegance. They overwhelmed them. And when the tournament started, something clicked. The fairy tale begins. South Korea beat Poland, then Portugal. Suddenly, they were through to the knockout stages, something they had never achieved before. The country erupted. Office workers skipped work. Students filled public squares. Entire cities turned red. For many Koreans, this wasn't just football. It felt like validation. Italy, where doubt enters the story. Then came the round of 16. South Korea versus Italy. Italy scored first. South Korea equalized. The match went to extra time. What followed is still argued about more than 20 years later. Italy's Francesco Totti received a second yellow card for simulation, a decision that shocked players, fans, and commentators. Italy had a goal controversially disallowed. South Korea scored the golden goal. They were through. Italian players were furious. Italian media exploded. Something felt off, not proven corruption, but an accumulation of decisions, all going one way. Spain, when controversy became impossible to ignore. The quarterfinal against Spain pushed the tournament into uncomfortable territory. Spain had 2 goals disallowed, one for a foul few could see. Spain were eliminated on penalties. South Korea were in the semi-finals. At this point, the conversation changed. This was no longer just a fairy tale. It was a scandal, the home advantage that became too big. There is no evidence that South Korea paid referees. That matters. But football doesn't need envelopes of cash to be distorted. Pressure can do the job. The stadiums were hostile. Referees were human. The crowd noise was relentless. FIFA, intentionally or not, benefited enormously from a host nation going deep into the tournament. More viewers, more emotion, more history. Every close call seemed to fall the same way. And people noticed. The end of the run. South Korea finally lost to Germany in the semi-final. Germany were clinical, experienced, unmoved by the chaos. South Korea finished fourth. The best World Cup result in Asian football history. The streets were still full. The pride was still real. The joy didn't disappear. But the questions never went away. Football is remembered for its goals, for its heroes, for its miracles. But sometimes, the most important part of the story happens around the pitch. In boardrooms, in palaces, in places cameras never go. Argentina, Italy, South Korea, 2002. Different countries, different eras, the same lesson. Football doesn't create power. It reveals how power works. And as long as millions of people care deeply about this game, someone will always try to use it. The only question is whether we notice.